you pull on that jersey, you represent yourself and your teammates. And a name on the front is a hell of a lot more important than the one on the back. Get that through your head.
And here we go.
And it is no good. He missed it. Are you kidding me? The season can't end like that.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Some goofball in a hat and a red shirt. Now he takes off the shirt. He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs to the 50. He runs to the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms, bare-chested. Somebody stop that man.
Welcome back to the program, otherwise known as NETMA. I am your host, Tyler Falk, here on a Wednesday evening, the last Wednesday of August. We're just past an excellent group of games in Week 5. So many good games, so many crazy plays. If you haven't checked out all the highlights, you need to go ahead and do yourself a favor, because there's only so much I'm going to be able to cover tonight, only so much that there were going to be people, or how much coverage there was going to be on Monday Night Show, on the Monday Night Spectacular, this week in the SFL. I mean, how do you cover all of the craziness that happened? It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. Okay, some housekeeping news and things that I need to talk about before we get going tonight. The first two segments will be covering Week 5 and all that kind of fun stuff, but I think we had a little too much fun last week. Last week, you may have known in segment 2, I may have gone into quote-unquote dark mode, into Tyler dark mode last week, I yelled a little bit. And so I just want to clear the air on a couple things. All right. So first, I don't intend on yelling. I never really intended to yell like I did back on that show, or in general. So I apologize to you guys that you had to see me like that. I don't want, that's not the image I want you guys to see of me. It's fun. We can meme about it. We can talk about it. But don't expect that to be me. Don't expect me to be Stephen A. Smith on here. That ain't me. That ain't me. Now, if I do get very passionate about some things, I'll say what I said before. I don't want to blow out your eardrums. I don't want to yell. But I think what I was trying to get at last week may have been lost to a good portion of you. So let me make my stance on the Motor City issue crystal clear. I am upset. At first, I was upset with how the league handled the situation. We already went over that a couple weeks ago. I'm now upset on how Motor City, the leadership, handled that situation. Yes, they have gone and apologized to Frank and to Jacksonville, but they still haven't released a public statement declaring that they admit what they did was not in the spirit of the game. They crossed into a very morally gray area in the SFL rulebook. They bent the rules and they violated the spirit of play. For that reason, they are cheaters. They violated one of the most core tenets of the league, written and unwritten. The SFL, even in its name, is simulation football. What we saw in week 2 with Motor City was not simulation football. They gamed the game. Therefore, they need to apologize. Not just to select individuals, no. They need to apologize to their fans who had to witness them. They need to cheat on the field deliberately. They need to apologize to the greater viewing audience at the time of release, including myself. If they are going to make up an excuse, says we apologize to everyone watching that game. I was there. I was there live. Why did I not get an apology? Why did a couple other people not get an apology? It's so... And they have to apologize to the league as a whole, who may or may only have heard it through the SFL press release, saying this is what happened, this was the league's decision, and this is the action they took. And their way, in their no way, shape, or form, is there a apology from anyone in Motor City to anyone else. The simplest way this all goes away is if they apologize. Until they apologize to the SFL as a whole, I will not call an SFL game involving Motor City. I will not do stats for an SFL game involving Motor City. And they will continue to be referred to as Motor City with an asterisk. Their record on my show will have an asterisk because they robbed Jacksonville of a win, of a fair game. They robbed the SFL a game in general, which they have to now explain what happened in that game. They robbed multiple accolades that went to other players. But because of what they did, they now no longer have those accolades. This was not I have a quote in my intro. The name on the front is a hell of a lot more important on the back. And that leadership group in Motor City was only playing for the names on the back of their shirt, on the back of their on the front of their clipboard. That's my stand. If I have to fall and die on that hill, I will fall and die on that hill. Because if they come after me, because I've already been threatened with a couple of violations by a certain member of the organization who has threatened to go to league personnel for what I'm saying, I will fight and die on that hill. If I'm struck with a violation, all that means is we have lost the sanctity of the game. We have lost the sanctity of simulation football. And gamers will continue to game. And this league will be turned into something else. If coaches are allowed to get away with that and teams are allowed to pay fines to save their butts in that regard, to take the easy way out, I will have no part of it. I'll have no involvement with that team, no involvement with that organization. So that's a much more calm version of what I tried to say last week. So now that's off my chest, we can get to the good stuff. We can talk about a good week of football. Week 5 was phenomenal. We had, for the first time in this new era, a couple of things happen. We had a fake punt that ended up becoming a first down due to a penalty. We had a fake field goal that went for a touchdown. Congratulations to Xavier Solomon and Carolina. And they came back and beat Atlanta in the Hive. The Hive are winless still. Mexico City is winless too. Both those teams in 2 heartbreakers. 2 massive heartbreakers. Mexico City falls to a backup quarterback. And Gabriel Manning came out and balled out with a backup quarterback, demonstrating why he is the number 1 wide receiver in talent and is getting paid for it. We saw Charleston pull a near rabbit out of the hat, come back against Florida, take that game to overtime, surprisingly the only overtime game this weekend. We saw LA nearly walk hand in hand the entire game with Alamo City on Monday night. We saw a bunch of good games. I mean, we talk about Fort Worth and Houston. Houston and Fort Worth only separated by 2 points. There were, in total, if I can do maths correctly, 3 games within 2 points. There were a total of, 6 games within 6 points. 7 if you count 7-point games, a lot of 10-point games, lots of close games. Lots and lots of good football. Lots of statements being made. I mean, you take a look at Portland playing against Las Vegas, a team who hadn't given up more than 19 points in a single game to this point, and they put up 35 on them and win. How about DC trying to get a little bit closer into field goal range, and all of a sudden, an interception out of nowhere. And all of a sudden, it's Baltimore with an above 500 record for the first time all season instead of DC. Yuck. I feel for you, James. All right. We've got so much more to talk about. There's so many other games here. We'll get a full recap in segment 2. So a couple other things before we get going. A special shout out to everyone here jumping in for the first time all evening. Candy Cane saying hello. Justin Resides here. Neil Rivers, Ron Haynes, Eddie Gage, Chosen's here. Bo Martin Jr. He hasn't thrown me to the Matrix yet, so that's a good thing. Ethan Muslin's here. And of course, James Walters, who I haven't mentioned. And all the rest of you are still here, which is always good to see. Whether you're watching live right here on YouTube, or if you're watching on playback right here on YouTube, welcome. Thank you for joining us. If you want to get involved with the show, in fact, I've only got one question for the People's Presser, aka show questions. If you want to get involved in the show and ask a few more of your questions, go ahead and jump into the NETMA Discord server, link to which is down below in the description. If you want more SFL information, there's the SFL League website and the YouTube channel down there as well. Go ahead and jump in, and we'll be happy to answer all your questions, and we are glad you're here. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, segment 2 just about ready to get set underway here in just a minute's time. I'll cover every single game that happened on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and get to your comments and questions after that. This is Nobody Ever Tells Me Anything. I'm Tyler Falk. We will see you in just a minute. And welcome back to NETMA. I'm your host, Tyler Falk. Glad to have everybody here on this Wednesday evening. And I'll tell you what, me, Cam, and a bunch of guys in Monday night's game, we were talking about this week. We were comparing this week to some of the greatest weekends in SFL history. And it is right up there. I think it was season 6 quarterfinal weekend, which had a couple of walk-offs, a couple of crazy things going on in that weekend, I think. But no one else could think of a much better weekend than week 5, season 21 of the SFL. That is the true statement. This weekend was amazing, spectacular, great. A lot of the superlatives, but let's get to it. Let's start talking about week 5. We'll start out in Baltimore. Baltimore escapes. It didn't look like they'd win for a hot minute. DC played them very well and very hard in Baltimore. That crucial interception ultimately decided the ball game. There's a couple of big interceptions, but I don't think any bigger than what Baltimore had. As far as a 1-point ball game, you need something to go your way. Keenan Samuels comes up with an incredible interception. Seal the game for Baltimore. The call from Chris Slovak, it drives laughter, it drives tears, it drives insanity. Check it out on the SFL YouTube channel. All right, game number 2 of the weekend, Jacksonville, Louisiana. Didn't see a whole lot of highlights on Monday night because it ended up being more of a blowout, but you need to check out that first play, the first kickoff. What ended up happening in that first kickoff, nearly the first time it's ever happened. We saw a onside kick get returned for a touchdown. We nearly saw a fumble scoop and score from Jacksonville on the first play of the game. After that, it'd be all Louisiana. Jacksonville couldn't cope and couldn't come back in that game, but still a good ball game. Charleston and Florida, the scoreline and the final result don't really indicate the near collapse of Florida there at the end. Florida, I think, I was up by 2 scores. Charleston gets back. They get an onside kick. They march down the field again. They kick the tying field goal. Florida goes headhunting twice in that game for John Lakeman. I'm just happy John Lakeman and Rod Cochran are okay. Both of them got injured in the game. Ended up would come back in the game in order to finish out the game. But a little bit of chippiness. That's the old East Division. The old East Division, not the new East Division. I think at one point Florida was roped in with Charleston, Carolina, and Jacksonville at one point. Back when we started to bring divisions back. I think that tailed. Still a lot of chippiness from those guys. Arizona and Vancouver, that one also going final, and that one also becoming very close and nearly going to overtime. Nearly the second game that would have gone to overtime had it not been for a quite awkward and very tight pass interference call on Vancouver. Just ticky-tacky, but close. A strong game. A very strong game. Arizona and JT Delaney, new kicker coming over from an exodus from London, kicks the game-winning field goal. Arizona goes bonkers. Eddie Cage goes bonkers. We've got a lot to talk about. and I have to keep going, otherwise I'm going to get behind. But Arizona, Vancouver, they play tight. Killian gets a good catch. It's a back-and-forth game. Just one penalty. One penalty decides a football game. That's quite sad. Anywho, Mexico City, Tulsa. Talked about it in segment 1. Tulsa loses. I think they lost Douglas Brown. They lost JQ, and they lost somebody else. I can't remember. But talk about being hamstrung. And asking backup quarterback Johnson to come into a ball game where not them, definitely not them, but Mexico City comes in and nearly takes the ball game. They put up 23 points. Tulsa has to come back. Tulsa has to fight back. They do. They come all the way back. I think at one point it was 17-0. 17-0 Mexico City, and Tulsa, backup quarterback, comes back in the game. Both figuratively and literally. And all of a sudden you see Gabe Manning, 10 seconds to go, breaking off 2 defenders, breaking out of those 2 tackles, getting into the end zone for the game-winning touchdown. Mexico City Aztecs equal Los Angeles Chargers pain. And you could almost say the same thing for a team we'll talk about here in a few seconds as well. On to Portland, Las Vegas. In Portland, we saw the first ever missed field goal of the season. It was shocking. We had not seen one through 4 weeks of play. Week 5, doinks off the uprights. It was Matt Rage for Las Vegas, and it was insane. But still, Vegas kept it tight. It was only 14-12 at the end of that half. Portland starts putting things together. Las Vegas jump back and forth. And all of a sudden, it's 29-27. 29-27. And Scott Johnson gets the return from his own 8-yard line. Comes back down the field, breaks off a tackle, and scores a kick return touchdown against his former team in Las Vegas, where they employed him as a halfback. Comes in, gets the job done in special teams, and wins the football game for Portland. Of course, we'd see one more Ezekiel Love, little bit of a run, and the final score ended up being 25-29 in that regard. But Portland come away with the victory in that ball game. Both teams in that regard are back to 2-2, back to 500 in that category. All right, on to Sunday's games. And I said we talk about another heartbreak, another Los Angeles Charger pain meme, and sorry, Atlanta, you can't let Xavier Solomon go on a fake field goal. It was just the fact that Atlanta jumped out to a lead. Atlanta, I'm just realizing this now, and maybe I shouldn't have, but Atlanta sports, ladies and gentlemen, besides the Atlanta United, that's a whole different analogy, but it doesn't seem like those Atlanta football teams can ever catch a break. They lost by 31-30 to Carolina, and Atlanta is still 0-4. It is insane in a lot of regards how good they look. They look so good. Atlanta looked like they were finally going to take a step forward and finally take the victory. But Carolina doesn't. Matt South leads a couple of great drives to put them in good positions, and they win. What else can I say? How else do you, if you're Atlanta, you've done everything you possibly could. You still find a way to lose. Other teams find ways to beat you. You look at BDG Hollywood, 197 rush yards, 2 touchdowns. You look at Bryant Dicey, a little over 50% completion percentage, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Not a terrible line. You look at the defense, and they forced 3 interceptions. Something's got to give. They won the turnover battle. They won on the ground game. They won everything but the game. It's quite shocking. I hope Atlanta turns things around. I hope they just continue to say, we're right there. We're right there. We have a good shot to get back in this season. We can come back and win some games. We can fight on. They're going to have to do it. And they're going to have to do it soon. On to our next contest. After Carolina and Atlanta. Oh. Give me back my filet of fish, a.k.a. the scores. All right. Queen City get destroyed by a certain team out of Detroit. And maybe I'm a little bit too hot on Queen City, but the less talked about that game, the better for Queen City and for the SFL. Fort Worth and Houston, next close game. Last 3 games here will be close. Previous game, not close, unfortunately, for Queen City. Houston is able to fight with teams. Houston is able to take it to teams, but they just can't finish the job. We've seen it in seasons past. We see it here. They lose by 2 to Fort Worth because this is why Fort Worth is able to do it, because Dunhill is different. Dunhill is starting to make some plays. Yes, 2 interceptions, sub 60% completion percentage. At the same time, he's finding receivers. He's trying to spread the football around as much as he possibly can. And again, when you have hot hands like Stephen Hacker, he's able to make some plays, and all of a sudden, that offense is starting to click again. That defense. How about this for a stat line? I talk about Marcus Dunhill. Here's another key aspect to it. I'm counting TFLs. 8 TFLs. 8 tackles behind the line. 3 sacks for Fort Worth. Dave Brooke could really do nothing in a pocket. The offensive line let him down. And that is the insufferability of Fort Worth football's defense. Impeccable job. All right. Denver and San Diego. San Diego jump out to a 20-point lead. Just wouldn't look back. Bailey O'Shaughnessy. Sans one run was dominated. He was not able to find a whole lot during that football game. San Diego's defense has finally started to figure some things out. Yes, it's against a young team, but San Diego come away with a solid victory. And then, of course, we've got Monday night's game. LA and Alamo City. Alamo City, all signs were pointing to them just stomping LA. In fact, the over-under, I think, was, 16 or something? Here's the thing. LA played tough. And the big thing about that is LA's right there in the mix. They just need a couple things to go their way. Maybe not to play Alamo City, because Alamo City would eventually walk away. Brad Jones is too hot to handle. Alamo City's got a good thing cooking, and they're looking to maybe going unbeaten, as they might play Fort Worth in a battle of unbeatens in Week 14. Be looking forward to that. All right, when we come back to People's Presser, we got lots of show questions to get to, and we'll get to yours here in just a moment. This is NETMA. And welcome back to the program, otherwise known as NETMA. I'm Tyler Falk. Welcome to the second half hour of NETMA. Segment 3 is also known as the People's Presser segment, which means you, the listeners, can ask me any question about the SFL, about what's coming up on the on NETMA. A couple of big things coming up Friday and Saturday. We'll talk about that here closer to the end of the show. But time now for the People's Presser. Let's get to a question from last week. This came after the show from Back to Brag. With Minnesota and Indianapolis both needing a new GM last offseason, how did a Minnesota sports fan end up at the rival of the Minnesota team and not with Minnesota? So here's the big thing for me, right? And I said it back when I took the post. I said it back when I took the general manager post of Indianapolis. I would rather call Minnesota games than beyond the Minnesota team. Because this all goes back to why I joined the league in general. I did not want to create a player. I did not want to be involved in any organization. I wanted to be a fair but honest and unbiased member of the media. And more importantly, I wanted to be a broadcaster. I wanted to call Minnesota games. Well, I just wanted to call games in general, but when Minnesota came out as a team, finally, I want to call Minnesota games. It would be a dream come true to call a Minnesota Twins game, a Minnesota Wild game, a Minnesota Viking game, a Minnesota United game. I want to call Minnesota sports. I want to broadcast Minnesota sports. That would be a dream come true for me. I can't do that in this league if I am a part of the team. That is why I chose a team other than Minnesota. Unfortunately for Minnesota fans, it's the team of their rival. And so I am known as a traitor in some regard. But in that same regard, I try to be as unbiased as I possibly can. Now, some people say I take bias too far in some regards. That just isn't the case. I may be very hypercritical of a certain organization in certain decisions they make, but up until a certain point in time, I was excited for a certain team to maybe be competitive, to maybe be good. Unfortunately, well, we're done talking about that because of what they did. Anywho, back to my point on broadcasting. I want to be unbiased. I want to give each and every team a good call. A call that's deserving of their players, their coaches, and most importantly, their fans. Because if you go to a game and the broadcasting's terrible, we'll take Tom Brady's first Super Bowl, for example. Unfortunately, that game-winning field goal, probably the worst Super Bowl call, game-winning call of all time. Just so bland. That's not what I want to do when I'm calling games. I want to be exciting. I want people to feel the emotion of the game and take something away from the game rather than just sitting at a screen or sitting in the stands and, I don't want that to happen. I want them to be excited about the game. So that's why I want to call Minnesota games rather than be a part of Minnesota. All right, on to Justin Reside now. Does Mexico City have a chance of doing the O has got to go at any time this season or week 6? Does Mexico City have a chance of doing the O has got to go at any time this season or week 6? Okay, let me try and decipher the question. I think what the question is trying to ask is, will Mexico City get a win? Will Mexico City get a win? And the answer to that question is maybe. Let me pull up their schedule here. They got 3 more away games, 4 games on the road. They play Fort Worth and Alamo City next. I think they're on a bye this week, so that they won't need to. They play Sioux Falls week 9 at home. They play Minnesota on the road, LA on the road, Seattle at home, and Houston. Mexico City's, with how the league stands right now, the next closest chance for Mexico City to win would be Sioux Falls. The only other time is maybe LA, maybe Seattle. But they could very well go 0-12 with that current schedule. So, to answer Justin's question, the O has got to go in week 9. Otherwise, they will still have an O by the time the season ends. Eddie Gage asks, what if all broadcasters refuse to work with Motor City? Eventually, during the season, you were called up to call a game of theirs. Now it's Cam on the call solo. Would you call their game then? No. I would still not call the game. Until they come out and apologize, I will still not call that game. I will not speak for every single broadcaster. In fact, for Tim Hackett, he's a great broadcaster, and he called a good game. I'm not going to tell anyone to stop broadcasting for Motor City. I just feel very strongly enough to where they need to issue an apology before I come back and broadcast for them, because it's irresponsible. I got further confirmation from owner of Jacksonville just a few minutes ago, from Frank Gooden, and only Drew has apologized to him, not Motor City as a whole, which is, from what I was being told by a certain representative, they had told me that they had apologized to Jacksonville, and obviously Frank is now discrediting this individual. It shows the lack of accountability and the lack of respect for the league and for other organizations in general. You can't go halfway on this. You can't dance through the raindrops on this. You have to, it's the right thing to do. So no, back to Eddie's question. If I was the last broadcaster on earth, I still wouldn't broadcast a Motor City game. I don't condone their behavior, and I will not stand by that behavior. That's the hill I am choosing to die on. No, Eddie. He is not discrediting the individual who issued the apology. The information I got from a spokesperson from Motor City, I will not disclose names. I'll not disclose disclose what they said. They were insinuating that Motor City had apologized to Jacksonville to Frank. So no, I am not discrediting Drew in his apology to Jacksonville. The story that I'm getting out of the spokesperson is not 100% accurate. So, again, shows you the status of MCV asterisks. Next question. Bo Martin Jr., do you feel that if Motor City came out and gave an appropriate apology that you would call a fair, unbiased game for them, or would it be best to use another broadcaster? If they come out and apologize, I'll go back to I will lift my embargo. I will broadcast fair and unbiased calls to Motor City. I will drop I'll stop on the thumbnail. I'm sad I didn't get it up right away, but no, I will not. I won't bring it up again. I won't continue to use my thumbnails as a countdown for how long they have gone without apology. I will stop putting asterisks next to their name and their record. I will take all of that back if they apologize. Because I want to call games for the players that are on that team. I want to call games for Guy Clausen. I want to call games for Michael Brown, Noe Terrazas. I want to call games for Motor City. Because of the players. The players do not reflect the leadership. So, if they issue an appropriate apology, I will call fair and unbiased games with Motor City involved. Until then, no. Ron Haynes, Stats Team Hall of Famer, or should be Hall of Famer. My understanding is each team is required to work a certain number of games. Question: do you agree with this league requirement? And as a broadcaster, how important are stats to you? They are invaluable. Stats are invaluable to me as a broadcaster. The more informed I am, the more informed I can inform the general public about. I think, yes, stats taking is a very underrated job. It is it's sometimes a thankless job. This is why I try and thank the statisticians every single broadcast for helping me out and my broadcast partner, whether it be Brett Solberg or Anthony Ellison, who will be this weekend, or if it was Cameron Duty last weekend. Whoever I'm broadcasting with. It's so important to have stats, people. And the fact the league requires it of teams to, hey, we need people to do this. Yes. For some people that don't like numbers, don't like stats, I know it can be hard. I know it can be. You are doing a service that you guys, like Ron Haynes, again, and other people that do it day in, day out. Stephen Hacker, of course, is up on there. DR Sim, Damon did a fantastic job on the game with me and Cameron last week. If we were a bigger league and had dedicated stats people just to do stats during a live game, we wouldn't have to have this requirement. But because we don't, we have to. So yes, we need the requirement. And yes, stats are amazing. Stats people are great. And we need stats for live games. All right, final segment of the show. When we come back, this is NETMA. Don't mind me, I'm just jamming out over here. All right, final segment on post-week 5, pre-week 6 show here on NETMA. I'm Tyler Falk, your host. Here is one final segment, 5x5, aka Power Rankings, and in the lightning round, which we go ahead and pick all the games. We'll have some housekeeping at the end of the show, so stick around for that. You might have already seen it if you're looking at the live shows or the upcoming live shows. We're doing something different here on the show channel, and hopefully you'll be able to partake in that regard. All right, 5x5 Power Rankings. Let's just go ahead and reveal them. We have a few different movers, and even though Mike O'Neill's Power Rankings will have Houston not moving, mine, unfortunately, do. They do drop down 3 spots, Baltimore, DC, and Vancouver. You know what I'm realizing? I messed up just a touch, because DC lost, but are somehow above Baltimore. So, expect DC to be moving down a little bit. Baltimore probably move up in the 8th spot. I could see DC moving... I could see easily DC moving underneath Houston. Houston going to 9. It's not a big change at all, but it'll go Baltimore, Houston, DC. That'll be the lineup once it gets fixed. But that is, other than that, everything else stays the same. Florida still my number 1. Alamo City still number 2. The top 6 remain the same. Arizona escapes, scarily. Atlanta and Mexico City. Don't unfortunately do that, but it's just where it is. Let's see, that's got to change there. Tulsa stays up there, or did they? Okay. Anywho, this is the order. It's a tight pack up there, Eddie. It's a tight pack up there. Yes, you came away with a crazy win, and then I don't realize Vancouver lost on one play. They lost on a penalty. So, I think Seattle's better. Seattle beat Arizona. There's my justification. There's my justification. Alamo City, you played very well. No see you there. Florida escape a weird one. But again, it's a very tough schedule. San Diego comes away with the victory on DC. They move up a little bit. Teams that I need to see more improvement from. Teams that I need to see more improvement from. I'd like Queen City. I want them to do better, but unfortunately, they just can't get things going. And there is a lot of talk that Alamo City's had the better schedule. They're both unbeaten. Florida, for the longest time, have been my favorites. And I nearly put Alamo City above Florida this week. I nearly did. I just need Florida to lose, and I need Florida to show me something crazy. I was microseconds away from putting Florida below Alamo City. But I didn't. And that's where we stand. This is your current power rankings. The 7 through 10 are going to flip around just a touch. Baltimore will jump up to 7. Vancouver will go to 8, so they'll stick around at 8. DC will go to 10, and Houston will go to number 9. That is where I'm going with that. Let's see. Arizona should be okay. In the show questions channel, Eddie Gage is saying he's thinking Arizona should be ranked lower. We got people from different teams saying they should be ranked higher, ranked lower. What is it, guys? You guys not like your own team or something? No one's complaining about me bashing on my own team, but like Indianapolis. Regardless, that is the power rankings for this week. All right. we're going to go ahead and beat the clock just a little bit. We're going to go jump in the lightning round. It's on automation. I don't have an editor. I don't have someone to go ahead and do my producing stuff for me. So it's little on me trying to work all this stuff. So we'll still see 5x5 up there as we go into the lightning round. And that means it is time for pickups. It is time for pickups, which is not currently up at the moment. So we get to do it the old-fashioned way. I get to try and figure out how this is going to work. All right, let's see. Is that going to show everything? Yes, that's going to show everything. All right, time now for some pick'ems for next weekend. We start out with Indianapolis and Fort Worth. Indianapolis will lose. Indianapolis will lose. Fort Worth is too good of a team right now. The extra week for us maybe has a shot at getting maybe something surprise sprung up on them, but I don't think so. I think Fort Worth's got this one. Atlanta versus Detroit. The big thing for me is the Swarm. The Swarm are on the cusp of something. The Swarm already. My unbiased opinion says Atlanta should win this game. They're right there. They are right there. But I'm going Atlanta in this one. I'm going Atlanta. Fort Worth, Atlanta, the first two picks. Portland versus San Diego. Here's a good game to watch. Here is a pretty underrated game. If you've been watching the last couple of seasons, this is an underrated game to watch. San Diego bouncing back and forth. Finally bounced back with a win last week. Portland back to 500. This is a really good rubber match in a lot of regards. Oh boy. All right. I'm going to go Portland in this one. I liked how they played. I liked how they beat a team that didn't allow a whole lot of points beforehand. They get going, and I think they're going to beat San Diego in San Diego. That's going to be a good game to watch. Should be I think a 5-point spread between the two clubs at the end of the game is probably about accurate. Florida and Jacksonville. Florida looked a little shaky. Jacksonville took a while to get going. Florida's at home. I'm giving it to Florida in that regard. LA and Vancouver. Sully looked pretty good. He looked pretty good last week, or this past week versus Alamo City. What do I go with here? I'm going to say Vancouver is surprised. I think LA picks up their second win in this one. In that regard. Louisiana, Queen City, I think it's still tough for Queen City at the moment. Louisiana comes out with the victory here. Carolina versus DC. DC has played pretty well. Carolina shocks Atlanta in a pretty tight ball game. If you take the winning and losing scores of last week, you get what these two teams had. DC with 30 points, Carolina with 31 points. Give me Carolina in this one. Give me a crazy Carolina in this one. Sioux Falls and Las Vegas. Vegas finally, the defensive shell has been broken in that regard, giving up a whole lot of points. I'm giving it to Sioux Falls in this regard. They get an extra week off. They'll have an extra week to prepare for Vegas. And saw what Portland did. I think Sioux Falls will have a shot of winning. Alamo City, Seattle. A lot of people are saying, you're going to pick Seattle, aren't you? It's a lot harder than you think. And I don't think Seattle will be able to contain Brad Jones. I really don't. Brad Jones was undeniably unstoppable last week, and I think that continues over here. I'm going ACA in this one. Minnesota and Houston. in this one. Minnesota unbeaten. Houston finding a few unbeatens and coming up short barely. Third time's the charm for Houston. No. No. Give me in Minnesota too. Minnesota doesn't lose at home. Minnesota's winning this game. Charleston and Canton. Canton looks all right. Charleston looks all right. This is going to be a tight ball game. Canton is going to win this game. Finally, that's the last game of the week. That's Monday Night Spectacular. Canton, they're doing something special Monday night as well. So I think Canton's gonna win that football game. All right, here are the picks: Fort Worth, Atlanta, Portland, Florida, Los Angeles, Louisiana, Carolina, Sioux Falls, Alamo City, Minnesota, and Canton are my picks for Week 6 here in the SFL. All right, a couple extra things to get to, a couple other, maybe some questions I missed here in either chat or in the show questions channel on that Discord server, link to which is down below in the description. If some of you lucky people in that NETMA Discord server saw something that doesn't look like the SFL at all, looks a whole lot like a picture with Starfield on it. And I am entering a new opportunity, when I was talking about bringing the show back, I want to do other things and have something where we can just sit down and relax and talk. And maybe see some random guy in a flat cap do some crazy things on the internet, huh? So, there will be the official Saturday morning gaming premiere on Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern. That's before all the Saturday games or the start of Week 6 for the SFL. But Friday, when Starfield's early access drops, I will be playing that game. I will be playing Starfield, and I will be streaming it live here on the channel. So if you want to stop by and say hi, and drop by and say hi during the day. I won't go too long. I can't game that long. But if you want to watch some guy flay around in space with a flat cap, that's probably me. And yeah, you're welcome to tag along. Time for that stream will probably also be 9 a.m. Eastern time for episode 0 of Saturday Morning Gaming, which will technically be as Friday, but we won't worry about that too much. So that's a whole lot of fun to check out. Hope to see you there on Friday morning, and then also on Saturday morning. Come by, stay high. So we hope to see you then. What did I miss? Did I miss any questions? I'm scrolling through everybody here. Thank you so much, everybody, for jumping in. A lot of other people jumping in as well, saying hi. Robert Thump is here. Greg Soto, Frank Gooden. Who else has jumped in saying hi? Albert Begin has jumped in saying hi. And you don't have to come by and say hi. You can just pop in the channel, pop in the Discord server, and just say hi if you want to, or just be here for the fun. And that's the only place you will get updates on announcements about the show, about a whole bunch of other things going on here on the channel. That you can only get on the NETMA Discord server, link to which is down below in the description. So Week 6, some more good games coming up this weekend. Hopefully we'll have as many good games as we had this past week. It's going to be hard to top, ladies and gentlemen. We had a great Week 5. It's time to see what Week 6 brings us. And what difficulty am I playing Starfield on? I have no idea. I've been trying to get into a whole bunch. I'll probably play it on normal for my first character just to get the vibe of everything, but we'll get to that here in just a moment. I don't know if you can set a difficulty in that regard, but we'll find out on Friday. We'll see you then. Until then, everybody, I hope you stay tuned. I hope you see us. I hope we talk to you soon. Until then, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, ladies.